I'm Gavin, GB Performance Coaching kind of podcast assisted by Hakeem, and we've got Chris with us today. Chris runs what I think a very successful school rugby programme at Wallace High School, and I've known Chris for a number of years.
Too many. Too many, if we're honest. Old teammates. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me along. So Chris Jubb, Wallace High School, and all-round rugby enthusiast, I suppose, and old friend and teammate of Gav, and I suppose a bit of a fangirl as well from what he's doing his coaching phase of his life. So, yeah, thanks for having me along.
No worries at all. Where will we go with this? Will we go Lions first? Will we have a talk about the Lions?
Yeah, I think we should start with the Lions. Who watched the Lions this weekend?
I watched the highlights.
Why not the game?
And will we talk about who the standouts are?
Should go with standouts.
Standouts, I would say, well, Finn Russell.
Can I say? Boy's a magician.
Finn Russell. You know, I seen an interview that Tom French done on BBC Scotland where he was saying that people shouldn't call him a maverick. You know, he's better than that. And I think if you took Finn Russell out of the Scotland team and put him in one of the top 3 teams in the world, people would be shouting for the rooftops, he's the best standoff in the world. But because he's with Scotland, that gets played down a wee bit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Very, very... How do you categorise a player like Finn, what he can do, how he reads the game, how he distributes the ball, how he brings players in, how he seems to make everyone around him better? Yeah, he's a clear standout. And as I said, like if he was in the French team, would he be like Dupont and Russell? Would everybody claim him for that thing?
I wouldn't compare them together. No, they're not the same.
I'm not saying the same, but would that be something you'd like to see in terms of global phenomenon? How you
I
would
think
take
if you had
them,
a World 15
I mean?
and you could pick your 9 and 10, that's who.
For me, that's nailed on. Yeah,
you know, and I think it definitely would be. I think Ellis Genge has been outstanding as well. I think he is just probably in the form of his career at the moment. The way he carries ball, he's so aggressive, and it will be interesting to see who Andy Farrell selects, whether it's him or Andrew Porter. And I can see arguments for both, but when I look at Genge, he's just so dynamic.
Yeah, for me, it's the ball carrying. He's never shy to put his hand up to carry the ball. He's never shy to go and clear it ruck. It's just it's someone who's, when you look up and you're looking to try and find someone, and again, you could take an argument for there's 3 or 4 other props or guys in the front 5 who'll do that for you. But for me, it's he's the modern day shape and size of a prop. He's fast, he's powerful, he's dynamic. I mean, he's coming into your channel. That's a tough tackle to make one-on-one. I was going to say that. I never made tackles on players like that. So it's a case of that's somebody else's job. So no, I couldn't agree more. Genge. One for me has been sticking out is Tygburn. I think he's your Swiss Army knife in that second row, back row. Doesn't necessarily grab much headlines or limelight, but work rate at breakdown, work rate at set piece, line out in particular for me. He's also got great hands that he understands his role when he's taking the ball to the line. He carries well, so he knows he can play that tip, he can fix players. And for a big fella, he can actually move when he gets in the loose. Usually it's the kind of case of these big guys are looking for an offload. He's got a head down going for the line.
Yeah,
so
I
like him.
One that's kind of came out of nowhere is probably one that kind of went under the radar with Scott Cummins. Kind of obviously he'd missed an entire Six Nations, and people are like, well, why is he in the squad? But obviously John Dale's worked with him before, knows what he can do line out time, and he's been fantastic. His try, was it yesterday or the last game? I think it was Wednesday's game. He took the ball on a short line, attacked it, 5 metres out, boom, over the line. He seems to have added that around the park element to his game, as well as being an excellent line-out operator.
Yeah, I think, as you say, missing the Six Nations, a lot of people were, when his name was read out, I remember I was actually in the middle of a coaching session and I got an injured player to go, right, you've got your phone on you, well, just get that flashed up and just call the names out. So as we were mid-session, you would just hear one of my kids just shouting the names, and when his was read out, there was a bit of a, everyone stopped going, what? Not to do him any discredit, but as you say, having not seen him in the limelight, it would appear that he's been busy behind the scenes. He's been working really hard, and that's come straight into fruition now when he's on the Lions too.
I mean, I remember I was the Glasgow under-16 forwards coach, and he was in the squad. He was at Kelvinside Academy at the time. It was him and Andrew Davidson. Andrew Davidson, who played for Glasgow as well. You just see he was going right to the top.
Yeah.
His understanding of his role as a lock, and we actually played him at 6 in one game, and he was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The way he gets around the pitch, big stride, you know, and some would maybe say he's not the most, you know, imposing physically. However, from what I seen the other day, he was very, very good. Ball in hand and around tackling in the guard shield area, he was very, very good.
I think sometimes you can simplify, when you get to the professional level perhaps, and I always look at it from, we'll come on this later on, but it's that just do your job. And sometimes simplifying your role, as you say, as a lock, as a centre, as a 9 or 10. What's your main role? Do your job. And if he's doing those things very, very effectively, and he's doing them at such a high level, then all the other things that you maybe look for to be that standout player, he's actually doing them effortlessly. That maybe is one thing that separates him out. So I'm glad I'm not making the selections for the first test. There's a lot of strong players putting their hands up.
I done a video on that on Instagram the other day about what would your centre pairing be? Now I think Ringrose has ruled out the first test because of concussion. That's what they're saying.
That might make selection easier.
Yeah. So do you put Hugh Jones in alongside
Sione, or do you put it next to Big Bundy?
Yeah. Or do you just go Scottish centres?
Because then you've got a balance.
And you bring, but then
the argument
the
that
other
comes
one
in,
is
do you then bring in the 10?
Yeah.
Do you then bring in the 9 before you know it? Like you can't have.
And then the other one is Owen Farrell. What do you go with him?
Where do you bring him
you
in?
Know? And do you know something? I can't see. I'd be very surprised if he's not in the test squad. I just think he's got,
as in Farrell,
as in Andy Farrell.
Okay, yep.
Owen Farrell. I think he just has that. I mean, if you're going to go Finn Smith or Owen Farrell, who are you going to go on the bench against Australia first test?
On the bench. So this is your starting 10.
Yeah. So my starting 10 is Finn Russell. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So who are you going to go, Finn Smith or Owen Farrell? I know who I'm going to go for.
You'd probably go Owen Farrell because he's been
6
there, done
times
that.
Premiership winner, 3 European Cup winners.
I think the main point, there was a lot of players that they could have been picked, but I only went Owen Farrell. The other one is Jack Crowley, which could have been.
Well, that's a good point, aye. Yeah.
But he went for Owen Farrell, which nobody expected that, especially at his age, and he's not played rugby in the past 2 years as well. Yeah. So,
and it's a hard one. I just know from a coaching perspective. Who am I having? I'm having a guy that can stick the ball between the sticks from pretty much anywhere, you know, in kicking range. I've got a guy who can dictate the game. You know, he's got over 100 tests for England, 80% kicking rate.
Test match animal. Been there, done that.
4th lines tour.
Sometimes if
now, some would say that's old school, but if you want to win a series.
At that elite level, as you say, you're maybe in first test we're maybe caught napping or we're up against the strongest opposition we've played so far on the tour. Having someone who can just come on and perhaps at that moment under the sticks when you look up at the scoreboard, you might be down by 12, there's some heavy breathing, people are looking at faces and kind of we need someone.
He's just going, right,
he just comes in who can maybe, it's that, just grab it by the scruff of the neck, go, let's not panic, everyone take a breath, let's get the water on board. Here's the simple message from the sideline. This is where we're going to go and play. We're going to get ourselves within range and we're going to take some shots. We're just going to change how we're going to do things. And I think he's probably one of the few players from the British Isles who could be involved that has that
and I get
in the bank, that people would just see that and understand what he's doing.
And I think probably the proof will be in the eating of the pudding. I think that from the sense of that he'll just do what he does. Because I think his mindset's unshakable. You know, how many times have you seen him in a pressure moment where he's just went and delivered? And I think that's the big thing. Jack Crowley's a good point because Jack Crowley's been very, very good. Would you have taken Jack Crowley ahead of Marcus Smith?
Well, Marcus Smith can cover both 10 and 15. He can play both as a fly half and a fullback. But Jack Crowley's been consistent with the other teams and the way he's been playing. Yeah. So, back again, comparing Owen Farrell to Jack Crowley, I think Jack Crowley deserved that place better than Owen Farrell.
And I think that opinion is probably not standalone. There's probably a lot of people who may be calling out for that as well. I think there's maybe like I personally love the Lions. I love the romance of it. I love all that so much so that I myself was lucky enough to go on a tour in 2009 as a fan. So it was just getting wrapped up in that is fantastic. But I think because it's seen as such an elite level, it's a step beyond. I think people want the best players in their position. But if you've been a real Lions fan and followed it for any length of time, I think you do need a couple of jack of all trades potentially, who maybe is 10, so you can be 15. Your Elliot Daly's maybe a great guy, or you know what I mean, who can do the 13 thing, the wing thing, the 15 thing, big boot, pass, distributes. You're like, well, he's great midweek. He'll push and challenge people in different positions. He'll probably, I think he's the player that might ask questions of other players. And that might be something. Whereas Crowley coming in going, that's an out-and-out 10.
I think if Elliot Daly was fit, there would be a real decision to make between him and Blair Kinghorn.
Yeah, and Hugo Keenan seemed to really step up.
Yeah.
And do you then... I don't think you can eliminate the Ireland factor.
No.
There's a lot... Ireland head coach. But he's made it very clear in all the press stuff, Farrell, that it's not... It was initial, we've got some bit of a mix, but we're now just the Lions group, which I really... I like that even... Media-wise, he's batting that away, just going that Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Like, no. It's now the Lions group. We have come together. This is how we're pushing through. But will that be a factor in the back of his mind with the old whiteboard and pen? He knows what he's getting with those players.
Yeah.
So in first test, you might only take a handful of gambles. So that gamble might be not Porter. Do you know what I mean? In the front row, he might eliminate one of those players, whereas he knows Hugo Keenan, boom, he's fine. Big one for me that I think just between me and my pals we've been chatting back and forth about is the James Lowe, Duan van der Merwe, two guys who can play 11.
Hard.
Because one gives you really good out-and-out kicking, aerial game, attacking, brilliant. And then you've got our big Dewey who's just a monster. And you're like, you bring him in off, he scores. Number one trait, winger for me.
Score goals. Score
tries. Get on the ball, go score tries.
Yeah.
Don't have to be the fastest, but he is.
And that's the same. That's the same with the likes of Owen Farrell, kick goals. You know, you get guys who do things in their positions.
We maybe circled back to that. Do your job.
Yep.
Do your job.
Another one, Jack Morgan, outstanding. Outstanding.
And flying that flag, he probably has a bit of additional pressure on his shoulders. Bit of a nation looking at him at the minute, and then on the back of Wales snuck a victory against Japan yesterday, I believe. I didn't quite catch
Blair
that
Murray's
game.
Another one that could have been in there shout for the Lions.
Yeah, unfortunate that that's terrible. Scrum half got injured. Scrum half. Yeah, unfortunate for him because he would have probably really loved him because what he does club wise,
he looked sharp.
Yeah, and I think as well, his
box kick's very good as well.
The group of kids that I work with and coach with, when they see something electric from a certain player, that's what they can go and try and emulate the next day. And a couple of weeks back, he did the no-look basketball offload inside ball. He could have probably had the gas just to go. He knew that player's coming across. That player's just going to hit him. Takes the hit very casually, nonchalant, throws the ball on the inside and poof, they're under. My players are training the next day because that's the world they live in. That's what they absorb. They're in there and they're all thinking they're playing basketball. And then me as a coach, I'm tearing my head up just going, two hands on the ball, look, we're offloading, you do all those things. But
we've got to let them express yourself.
But then how do you then go with don't quash, as you say, expression?
Yeah, and I think he'll go with Furlong at tight head.
Yeah.
Tried and tested. That'll be the one that it's a stick on. It'll be like...
First test.
I know what I get from him.
Yeah.
Scrum's not going to go anywhere. Fantastic around the pitch. Has shown in glimpses when he's been on. He's getting better, you know, in terms of match fitness. Yeah, he's just an absolute beast.
Yeah. I think test one as well, you've got to play safe.
Or do you go to All Ireland front row? Porter, Sheehan, Furlong.
So again, you could do hours on that. And I think there'll be a lot of whiteboard marker, wipe on, wipe off, wipe on. That is not a very quick and easy selection meeting when that's had with Farrell and the High Hegians sitting around the table having a tea of coffee.
How much input the coaches have. Is Andy Farrell just going, nope, there's a 23?
Or perhaps does he open with the gambit of...
Right, give me your teams.
Yeah, so there's more than one way to skin a cat, but does he go in and go, here's your 23? Discuss. Does he go, I've got my 23, but I'm going to hold that back. You give me yours, you give me yours, you give me yours. And then it might be a case of I'm going to tick off what matches. And then does he then have to fight his case for his players on his 23? Or does then, as you say, does Dale then come in and just go, no, by the way, Scott Cummings, like, come on, try and test it here.
And that's the thing about it. You look at the second rows of Itoje, you obviously stick on with captain. Chesham, people are saying about 6. I wouldn't play him at 6. Scott Cummings got a real chance of at least being in the 23.
I mean, we've covered the most experienced players in the Lions. How about the new talent like Henry Pollock? Has he got a chance?
I think because of his versatility and how he can influence a game, he's got a real chance of being on the bench.
I think because he's played and dabbled thus far, from what I have seen, he's done a bit of 7 and a bit of 8.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the pace like a Ben Earl, and I rate Ben Earl as well. As a proud Scotsman, there's a bit which going, do you really want to rate the English kind of thing? So you're a bit like, oh, but credit where credit's due. That man picks up ball, he gets to the game line. For me, he plays a bit like Genge, very abrasive, very forward thinking, very dynamic, straight head down, try lines that way, I'm going there, get with me type thing.
Yeah.
Or he looks to go and get the ball from 10 on those little inside runs, or just something off 9. So versatility might be Pollock's thing. And I think he also, he's
aggressive, he's a nuggety boy, eh? He's not scared to put it around either.
And he doesn't back down.
No.
We've maybe seen that in the European stuff as well before the Lions selection. Yeah. And there's a wee snippet I caught on highlights there. I think yesterday, opposition are just about to score. He sneaks in, he gets his hand under, and he knows he could hit the player just to hit the player to make it look good. And he's got the hand in just to tip the ball enough. And the second he's done it, they've then grounded the ball. He's got the savvy to then point up to the referee, go and check it, because he knows he's touched the ball.
Yeah.
Just to be that young a player on such a big stage in the nitty-gritty abrasiveness of the back row, to then go...
In a British Lions game.
In a British Lions game. To then go, actually, I'm going to use the grey matter here, and go, I can try and just hit him, or I can actually try and get in and tip this ball.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's powerful. And I link that back to where I come from in my coaching, that's powerful, because that inspires other kids to go, let's not just whack the player going over the line to whack them, because that's seemingly the right thing to do, because they might fumble the ball. Actually, what's most important is control the ball, downward pressure, right? I need to disrupt one of those things here to make this no try. Yeah. And he's done enough there, and you're like, and it's great. It's, versatility. Does he maybe take a sort of number 20 shirt as a not starting, but do you like him? Do you then go tried and tested safe, Van der Fleer at 7? Tagburn at 6?
Jack Morgan.
You got Jack Morgan, you got Ben
7, you know, like it's, again, I think I would love to be in that selection meeting, but just to pour the teas and coffees, because I would have to just be
glass against the window.
Yeah, just very much fly on the wall stuff. I think, just personally, that would be really, again, through the romance of it, what does that look like? Because that's something that you probably won't ever see on like I had that like 97 landlines, you know what I mean? We all had that on video, you know what I mean? That was for me just like, I suppose that's where the romance, it came at the right age for me. I was really loving my rugby, and then you could see it on the big stage, and like, I actually remember the cassette and everything about it for me, but that's something that is almost just, you wouldn't ever really see that part on the modern day access you have of the players, which I think is brilliant. It opens the game up to get people who are maybe not out and out rugby fans to be excited about rugby,
and I
because
think
it's on the global
sharing more
stage.
things now as tours go on. You're starting to see more things behind the scenes,
which I like. I think it's really good. I think the game's crying out for personalities, and are they really human? They don't want the social media handbook or stuck behind a table. They don't want that. And it's great that there's always seems to be a mix of players or different people or different characters stepping through. I think that's great. But no, flying the wall for selection meeting that'd be an experience.
Yeah, well, we'll soon see.
Yeah.
We will soon see. I mean, they made short work of that invitational side yesterday, which was always going to be, because you're taking guys who don't play together. And you're throwing them in, like a Barbarians, like an Australian-New Zealand Barbarians. I wasn't really expecting 48 points when I seen some of the names that was on the team sheet, the both centres, the back rowers, massive hitters, but the Lions just seem to just be getting more cohesive as the games go on. And people are talking about, the Lions aren't really hitting top form, They're winning games, you know, and then there are certain parts of the games where they're performing. And even the game against Argentina, where they lost the game, they lost it because they weren't accurate enough, but the way they held on to the ball, the depth, the width, how they attacked, their tempo that they played at was phenomenal. And I think now going into the Australian test, they're actually in a pretty good place.
Yeah, and the Argentina, I think a lot of people just going, it's the Lions, the Globetrotters or the British Isles type thing. They'll cuff anyone they play. And like, actually, you need to credit to the Argentina team. I've got a couple of young lads who've moved to my school from, and they are Argentinian, so they were so excited. And to see their team, and they're like, look, no offence, we've beaten them, we've beaten them, we've beaten them, we've beaten them. In the last 18 months, we're no slouches.
Nah.
And you're a bit like, yeah, fantastic.
And you know something, that what surprised me is that England are beating Argentina at the moment. England beat Argentina yesterday, and that's an England team without, you know, the likes of Elliot Daly and Marcus Smith and guys like that. So that potentially shows you that there is a tide turning within English rugby in terms of that a group of players coming season on season in terms of quality.
Yep.
You know, you look at Scotland maybe, and we'll come to player pathway in a minute, I think. You know, you look at that ability to produce quality players season on season, year on year. And I think, judging by England beating Argentina, in Argentina, they could be strong over the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, I think that's, you can't overlook the,
You know?
and I think these players who've maybe had a really strong, like the Pollock, for example, they had a really strong under-20s.
They're starting to come through.
That group is almost similar to, we might need to rewind the clock slightly a bit further, but that Italy under-20 squad now, I think there's, someone will have the facts and figures, and I'll butcher them here, but the overall majority are now into that men's senior team. That's why you can see them picking up some wins. They can see them being more consistent. These guys aren't just getting token contracts wherever they're actually going, and they're playing some great brand of rugby. That are we, maybe as Scotland, it's a big question. Are we falling behind in that area slightly by not producing as much? That's maybe a whole different topic, but
Did we go there?
Yeah, before we move into the pathway and development of new rugby players.
The hottest topic between parents, players, kids and coaches.
The big topic there of this England team coming through without these bigger names perhaps there, or your stalwarts that have been there for a number of years. That, for me, they are leaning into the opportunity they have at this point in time when rugby is everywhere. There's great exposure. Here's your chance to throw your name in the hat, or here's a chance to very much kind of go and make a bit of a name for yourself. What can you do? And potentially ask questions of coaches, so that before we know it, we'll circle back around. The autumn tests will be here. We'll be on to then building for the Six Nations. These players probably want to be going, well, I at least need to be in a training squad. I need to be in a conversation, whereas maybe some of the players who they just expect that to happen. I think that's a great motivator for someone going, you've got an opportunity, because say you're maybe a lock hiding behind Itoje. And I don't mean hiding, I mean you're just being patiently stuck potentially, because how do you get in front of him? As I said, going down to Argentina and winning in Argentina, that's a great statement to go, by the way, absolutely. You can't overlook this player.
Yeah.
Let's start with why coaching rugby. What led you to the path of coaching individual players and rugby clubs? Start with you, Gav.
Seems so long ago when I started. So I hadn't played. I didn't start playing rugby till I was about 11 at high school. Yeah, high school. And I'd played football through primary school, as you did. In Glasgow, you did. I
think everybody played football, especially in Glasgow.
Jumpers for goalposts.
That was it. That was it. In the grass fields, you get shouted in for your dinner. You know, that kind of stuff. And then I found rugby about 11, 12. And then it just carried on, you know, playing through school. Played for Glasgow schools under 16s. That's when kind of probably I thought, well, this is something I quite enjoy, you know, in the sense of, you know, making friends. And some of the guys I played with in that Glasgow schools under 16s I see to today, you know, still today, you know, which is probably for me what rugby's all about. And then kind of, you know, went from school, Glasgow under 16s, played for Glasgow Southern as it was at the time. It's now called GHA. Stayed there for under 18s, and then played for Glasgow under 18s and Glasgow under 19s, and then went down south. And then that's when I kind of started the kind of more, how would I describe it, serious stuff with Saracens and the London Scottish, and then had a European Cup year with Glasgow, which was eye-opening. So yeah, kind of, you know, school, but I was a late starter. You know, kids now, I think, are starting the game earlier. And really kind of, as soon as I continued playing, obviously at Stirling, and played for Glasgow District and Cali and Scotland under-21s, but that's by the by. But why I got into coaching was probably on the back of when I finished. You know, you have 2 or 3 coaches that you probably meet over your career that you think, you know, they've had an impact on me. So then you start to ask yourself, right, okay, what am I going to do after playing? Because you're a long time retired.
Aye.
You're a long time retired, and you think, right, what am I going to do? I don't want to be out of this. You know, I don't want to be stepping back. I want to still kind of stay involved. And then I get involved. A fella called Alan Cowan that phoned me up, asked me if I wanted to go to Dunfermline as a forwards coach. I was a forwards coach there 1 year, then second year head coach, won the Shield final, got promoted, and then that was me into coaching. And coached pretty much ever since. I think I've had a year out. So yeah, and then back coach. I wasn't going to coach seniors this season, but back coaching at Kirstorfen, where they seem to be a brilliant group of guys, really forward-thinking club. So that's a kind of whistle-stop tour of it, really. And then obviously doing what I'm doing now, coaching, one-to-one coaching, small group coaching in schools, is really a kind of continuation of that. So yeah, so that's me. Over to you.
I think through my job, I'm a PE teacher at Wallace High School in Stirling. I think very much when I moved to Wallace to take up my job, I had just qualified in my probation year at Glenrothes High School. It was a great eye-opening experience. I loved that. It was if you can teach there, you can teach anywhere type school. And I had great support from great staff, and there was just no rugby there. And I think that I could see at that school at that point in time, there was kids there who needed something, and I probably just felt, well, how can I help? The best way I could help kids in that environment, I thought, was, well, it's going to be through sport. It's going to be through providing opportunity. So that's how coaching started. So I just started really small on that because I was just there for the 9 months. So that first year I had at Glenrothes High School, I just started coaching there. S1 boys, S2 boys, and it started with, I think, maybe 5 or 6 lads just after school, and it was honking rain. We couldn't even get outside, so we actually did something literally in a badminton court, because that's all the space we had. We had just 2 tatty balls, and we just did it, and before we know it, I'm like, well, this is what we've got, then we'll get to somewhere. And it was that year where I then realised that working with those groups of kids, those 5 or 6 boys who then became 8, 9, 10, and finally getting a game and getting some strips and going through that whole process of like that extracurricular and building a club and being something to be really proud of, like within myself, but also to give the kids something to be proud to be part of. I found that hugely empowering, and actually gave me, I suppose, a big drive to go, well, I want more. And I'm that person. I'm just, once you scratch that little itch, it's like I need to go and keep going and keep going. So I was very fortunate that I landed a position at Wallace High School in Stirling. And then through that, I've now just finished 13 years teaching, and about to go back to start my 14th, that I can probably relate to those kids so much, in the sense of I see myself in them. You know what I mean? We've got kids who are not from necessarily a great, most affluent area. We've got some kids who are. It's a real kind of mix. It's really diverse. It's a great ethos in the school, but sport's the best way I can help all those kids, and just so happens it's through the medium of rugby. So I quite often tell a lot of people I meet that I'm a PE teacher first and foremost, but it's education first. But I just tend to educate kids through the sport of rugby. It's probably a great way I can do it. So it might be, how do I make you a better teammate? How do I make you a better person? So things like respect, organisation, self-discipline, motivation, resilience, like all these big kind of things we talk about in education, I suppose, in life for young individuals now. There's differences from myself and yourself when we were running around. As I said, it was jumpers for goalposts. Your mum would shout, yeah, right, come on, get your tea, or come up, the streetlights are on. Well, the streetlights came on 2 minutes ago. Oh, I've not got a watch, I couldn't tell you. So it's different types of kids now, but the problems and the issues they face are still the same as we faced in the early 90s. So it just, if I can do something through rugby, coaching was the great way I can do it. So I get to teach, which I love my job, and I'm in a good school, and then therefore get to work with a really good group of kids who want to be there. That makes my why and my drive in the morning to get through from Glasgow to Stirling every day. It's a real bonus knowing that I can make an impact in hopefully these young kids' lives.
And prior to that, you worked for Glasgow Warriors as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did. You've done your homework. I finished my undergraduate at Glasgow University, graduated in 2009 with physiology and sports science. I had a great time at Glasgow, loved that. And my first graduate job, and it's a story I sometimes tell the kids at school, my first graduate job was unpaid. It was an unpaid internship, but it was with Glasgow Warriors, and it was doing performance analysis, and it was before Glasgow was based at Scotstoun, so they were actually down at Wallacehighrugby Club, down in the Mearns. So I used to have to get on my bike, cycle to the tube station, onto the train with my bike, get down to the Craigs, and I would do performance analysis, which had me sometimes standing at the side of a pitch in the pouring rain, filming and tagging training, or would be at the Palace of Arts for weights, or would maybe be at Hampden at the indoor area doing that. And part of that process and having your eyes open to this is a professional environment and this is what it takes for the players, I knew just by when you step in that environment, just going, I was never going to get there as a player, but I can maybe be involved in this environment through a different pathway. So I think it's really important that you tell the kids, like, the percentage of people who play is such a small number when you actually get behind that curtain of what a professional environment looks like. When you see the coaches, the admin staff, the nutrition, the SNC, all those other things that come into it, and I was such a small part of it. But having that first game day experience at Partick Thistle, going up there on a Friday night, Firhill, mighty Firhill, and being up there in the stands and doing my little bit of tagging and setting things up and then copying the game onto external hard drives, putting them onto laptops, giving them to the coaches. So you give them to Shane Monroe, you give them to Sean, you give them to all the guys going, you need to go and look at this, or similarly they would then come back to me. And again, I was a nobody, I'm an absolute nobody in the sphere of rugby, going, right, Chris, we've got Munster next week. Can you go and look at Munster's last 3 games and identify, in your opinion, where they're perhaps really strong or where we're really weak? And I was like, okay. And then being asked to then share my thoughts and opinions to the player group and coaching group inside Wallacehighrugby Club, just like in what is the bar area, if you will, kind of thing, on a little pop-up screen with whatnot. And I'm just standing there shaking like liquid. If you notice here, the Munster. So you stumble through it. But yeah, it was really good to know that was the professional environment and what it takes to get there. So then scaling that back to where I am as a teacher and then as a rugby coach and just enthusiast, as I've said, that it's night and day where we're operating. So I suppose my job is I'm maybe helping build the foundations of maybe some future players or coaches or analysts or S&C who might want to get to that pathway. So I think my experience of working for Glasgow, which I loved, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I met great people, great players. It's really set me up for success going back to the bottom to help build foundations of going, if you want to get there, I've dipped my toe in that pond. That's what it takes. Yeah. That's what it takes. Which I think the kids are still like, oh, you were unpaid? And I'm like, yeah, it was my first graduate job. I was so happy I was unpaid. And you have to phone your dad going, I've got a job. He's like, yeah, congratulations. It's unpaid. And he hangs up. And you're like, oh, God. But yeah, great experience. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's what you maybe need to have your eyes opened and not wet behind the ears a wee bit. You know what I mean? You need some real life experience, and nothing humbles you more than missing your train and then panicking, going, right, how quickly can I cycle to another train station to catch another train that will get me to train in time? Or the other way around, leaving a training venue because that was the player's break for an hour and a half or 2 hours they might have to go and eat or rest or recoup before they go and do their second session of the day, and you've then got to get across Glasgow and you're like, oh my God, I've got like 5 laptops, some external hard drives, a bike, pouring rain, heat down, just get it done. But that's what it takes, and I look back on it very fondly, very, very proud to say I've done that kind of thing, and so it was great.
Because I've always had this question in the back of my mind, do you always need to be a rugby player to coach rugby? But you've just answered that question.
I think it helps. I think you need to love the game. The game's frustrating.
You got to be a watcher.
Yeah, observant, I think, is very, very key. Yeah. You can't even say the rule book because someone will come in here and slap my wrist because it's the laws. Yeah. It's the laws of the game, which is fine. That's how the sport has those traditions, I suppose, that we just need to roll with sometimes. But I think if you love the game and you can embrace the game and all its kind of intricacies, then I think it definitely helps. But the best players, and again, you maybe touched on this, some of the best players just make this automatic jump to coaching and think it's easy. Like, I would never class myself as a good coach.
And they can't do
it.
Whereas you've got likes of Ron Nagara who has done it.
Yeah, so some can.
Yeah.
So I think
you need to have a real passion and love for the game and watch lots and lots of rugby to get an understanding of the game as a whole and current trends as well, I think. And then again, you look at football, Arsene Wenger never played football to any high level.
Yeah.
Jose Mourinho was Bobby Robson's interpreter at Barcelona. So, there's an argument for, but I think you do have to almost, how would you describe it? Just kind of be all in. If you're wanting to coach, to really understand it in the sense of, I don't think the wee guy who goes down and watches a game on the touchline just maybe once every Saturday is going to be a coach. I don't think. But
I think it takes more than that.
if he's a guy who's going to watch it and then he's watching rugby Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, he's going to eventually gain a certain amount of knowledge over a period of time, which might encourage him to go on a coaching course, and then it goes for there.
Yeah, that's the classic compound effect. For me, again, I would never rate myself as a quality coach. I'm always aspirationally trying to get better and achieve. That's why I get into rub shoulders with coaches like you or guys with more experience, or right as a back, how can I learn more of the scary dark arts? Going, okay, I need to, technically for me, I have that thirst and drive to do it. I don't know if many coaches really have all that, but I think you need that in order to really go there, because I think, especially with you've mentioned you've coached everything and do coach everything, but you're now working with a big group of seniors, you've just taken that on. I always seem to heavily coach in, what would that be, that 11 to 16 bracket for me is really quite heavy rugby intensive, the calibre of kids I coach and the ages. So for me, it's, you got to know how to break down a skill, and how you break it down with one group of kids might not then necessarily work with the next set of kids. You need to then try and find different ways. So understanding your players, and that's maybe building positive relationships and really putting yourself out there, so that they understand that you've got their back, and vice versa, because you're asking them to step on a field, go and hit people, and then get back up and smile about it,
and then do it again.
And then do it again.
For 80 minutes.
But similarly, ask them to do that week in, week out, and in training against each other, to then go and perform. I think you need to love the game, but it's a compound effect. You need to, I think the more you do it, the better you get at it, and you find better ways to differentiate a skill. I found quite an easy transition from being a teacher into a coach, but where my kids have maybe struggled with that is when I am coaching, it's a slightly different Chris than it is when I'm coaching.
But that's a good thing, though.
Yeah,
it's
kids
not
know
just
that.
teacher Chris.
Yeah.
It's not just monotone, bump, 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 very matter of fact, whereas your sessions, having watched your sessions, they're energetic, the kids are moving, they're learning, and I think, there are some great teachers or some coaches who were teachers. Eddie Jones was a teacher, I think. However, there's probably mixed reviews from players about about his style.
I might need to change my job on the back of that comment.
There was a story that came out. John Mitchell, the ex-forward defence coach for England, was going down to the reception in the hotel one day, and Eddie Jones said, "Oh, where are you going, John?" He said, "I'm going to watch my son or a relative play cricket at Lord's." "No, you're not. You've got work to do. Back to work." And you're like, oh my word.
And then, again, this maybe links into, do you have to be a rugby player to be a rugby coach? Again, American football, NFL, it's global. There was a coach there that I sort of followed a bit of his journey on the back of seeing a documentary. I think it was, if I can plug it, it was on Amazon kind of thing. It was Arizona Cardinals at the kind of flying wall. Bruce Arians is the coach.
There's a few of them.
There's quite a few of them. So I loved that Arizona Cardinals one. I've seen them all now. I fell in love with the coach, Bruce Arians. And it was that sense of, for his players and his coaches and so on and so forth, don't come to me and say, I missed a dance recital, I missed a basketball game, I missed a football game, I missed a birthday party. I'll cut you. Like, I will cut you from the team. Family comes first. And I suppose that's where I fell in love with you need to build the relationships with the players. And for me as well, I suppose as a teacher and working with those kids, you need to build a relationship not only with the pupils but with the parents as well. You need to. It's very much that tribe effect. You've got to get them all on board so they understand what you're doing, the process you got to go behind it, because there will be times, I think, as a coach, that you've got to push them quite hard. You've got to push them out of their comfort zone. So you've got to do that. But so having then being thirsty and watching for always trying to evolve and learn and get better, I love that sense of it's the family thing comes first, whereas you flip it the other way. There's maybe the contrast going, I'm going to go and watch.
20 years ago.
Someone else going to go and play.
What do you mean you're going to miss Tuesday training for going for a birthday? What are you talking about?
No. So,
and I remember if I'd have said that when I played to certain coaches who we both know.
Game's a bogey.
You're not playing on Saturday.
Dropped. That's your name off the whiteboard.
Yeah. You're not playing, and that's it.
Or perhaps chalkboard. We were that old.
Yes, probably chalkboard. That's what it would have been.
So, what do you think that's the hardest position to coach? Well, now most of the time we've got a forwards coach, we've got a backs coach, we've got people works on the lineouts, we've got people that works on the scrums. But what's the hardest position to actually coach? Personally, I would say a fly half. You could say a prop. You could say a fullback.
This is where you split hairs because you've got the big man's obviously forward. I pretended to play scrum half. I think it's just because I didn't like to tackle nobody, but I could pass and catch. So I think my coaches were like, just stick him there, he can do something. Fly half's obvious, I think, because there's the huge skill set. There's the run game, the pass game, the kick game, the defensive game, but also how do you coach and teach a skill where you scan and you read the game? Like they're always rushing in this area. So how do we play? How do we then solve that problem on the hoof? So I think for the overall elements that might come into that individual role of that player, you've probably got stuck on there as a 10. But as a rugby purist, and again, I'll throw myself out there and go, right, okay, as a back, comment on a forward going, I wouldn't have a clue where to start in the front five. Because that is where you would then come on your own and go. I think
from a general, I mean, so many different things can happen at so many different times. You know, you've got an opposition who are going to play a certain way. You're trying to play a certain way, and as a standoff, you've got to dictate your team to play in the right areas of the pitch. And it's hard to be very, very difficult to coach that. I think probably you need to have experience in the position, probably first and foremost, or have a real understanding of the position. But yeah, in terms of maybe not the hardest position to coach, but maybe one of the hardest positions to play would be tight head prop.
Absolutely.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Physically demanding. That's how when I
Is that why all props comes out at half time?
Depends who you play for.
It's when you
the
look at
old Hammy at 56 minutes. Going,
I think when you look at what tight head, I mean, you got to remember tight head prop's not just having the pressure of his own pack; he's got the opposition pressure coming through him as well. And when you look at the likes of Tag Furlong and Will Stewart and guys like that, you know, their bodies are going through tremendous pressure, you know, and you look at, I think it was Andrew Porter, he's probably played the most minutes of any other prop in the world. And you're like, I know he's a loose head, but you're like, you know, and these guys are just built different.
Yeah.
You know, they're just, their mentality, everything, it must, In terms of physically, I think tight head prop would be the hardest position to play.
I actually wouldn't fight you on that, to be fair.
But I think tactically, or how to learn to play a position or how to coach a position, would be fly half.
Because it's easy. Everyone could coach how to catch and pass the ball, but it's more of the trying to teach them or coach them how to read, how to play. Yeah. It's about that mindset, having to read the game before you do that. Look forward, look ahead, what's going to happen. I think that's the hard part of trying to coach rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, you're maybe further up the scale in terms of the age and stage of some of the players you maybe work with. I'm always quite at that foundational level, I suppose. It's that trying to identify just kids who are really excited to come in and want to play the sport. And quite often I get kids arriving as a P7 first year who've never picked up a ball before. So trying to just find something positive for them to latch on to is really good. But how do you take that player from that to then maybe get into that? Okay, then I'm maybe 16. I've maybe worked with them for 5 or 6 years. One of the key things, a question I always come back and ask myself is going, how do I teach that skill better? How do I teach them to scan? Some players just get it. So if it's a kind of case of, right, there's been a collision there's now a breakdown, there's guard shield A, this player going, how do I then, I can't influence that, but how can they go and influence the next thing? That's eyes up, that's scanning. Okay, they're looking to come out, and they're loading up there, so I need to get to that position. It's a very difficult skill to be able to coach, I think, with kids, especially maybe at my age, without having the classic stop-start of, right, this has happened, physically put them in places, stop. Eyes up. What do you see? Is it space? Is it people? Is it where are we on the field? Like there's so many factors that come into it that even me as just a keen amateur player as I was kind of thing, that's always something you would get frustrated about if someone's not seen something. You might have seen that. Similarly, I think players who maybe when the penny drops a bit faster than others. I suppose that's the beauty of what I do. Like you get such a mix and variety within the same group that I think the individual thing is scanning. Like how do you then coach that skill better? Because as you say, catch and pass, tackle, fitness, a lot of these things can be done through the same skill wrapped up in 7 or 8 different ways. You just change the focus. Scenario-based learning, whether it be limited contact to passive contact or no pressure to some pressure to full pressure. Like you can do it in different ways and suit I suppose, suit the player's needs and age and stage. But that's that cognitive scanning thing. That's maybe where the hard thing of the fly half. Like, what do you do at any given moment? Because it changes every single time.
Yeah.
That might make that very difficult to coach. Again,
player development. Do we go down that road?
You should.
It's probably actually a very good transition into that for player development.
Right, okay, so player development, we go pathway, bang, there you go.
Pathway, as in current pathway.
Yeah, let's go pathway.
I'll go from my perspective, and again, I understand that.
So this is just so people watching, it will be current pathway, which produces, produces earlier, better young players.
Is to produce the next Finn Russell.
Yes.
Where's the next Finn?
Next generation.
Who's the next player coming through? Who's the next player pulling on that number 11 shirt who's seeing Dewey and going, I want to score tries.
And how do we do it?
And how do we do it?
And how do we do it?
That's two big questions. One at a time.
And do we do it well?
That's three questions. I
think there's an easier answer to that one, though.
Perhaps. I see it probably the cold face. I was very lucky to experience. I was invited very politely by some coaches to work with the Glasgow girls 16s and 18s 2 years ago, and that was my first time doing any form of regional coaching, just plucked out of what I do with what I had done at Wallace. And I loved that. That was great to step out my personal comfort zone, work with different kids, different coaches. I personally am based in the West, but I very much do my job through there. So when I see the pathway, I can see what it looks like from the girls, but for the boys, I see probably more rejection than success. And that, some people might then go, well, that's maybe just the quality of your players. And I'll put my hands up and just go, we're not the All Blacks. But for me, the pathway system, there's some definite flaws that I think we could probably look to try and iron out and make things easier. I would actually advocate, especially talented players, rather than honing a group down to 40, 45, I'd actually advocate, especially that
take 60
under 15, that when they start that pathway journey, again, the power of these are different types of kids than they were 10 years ago, and I can just see that from my teaching and my coaching, that a no to a kid who's 15 can cripple them. And I can think of one player, for example, I will not mention his name, but he went to the pathway. He was very much on track kind of thing. He then went back to his club. He'd done a little bit of the pathway, didn't get as much game time as he perhaps wanted. He went back to his club and was asking why he's not getting more game time, what can do to get better. And he was just told that he's just not fit enough. So this kid then took that as a big no. He stopped playing for 2 years. That kid then went so extreme the other way that he actually lost 4 stone, and he physically transformed and lost all the size and all the ability to play and no longer wants to play. And you're like, that no. And it wasn't until he was then in S6. So this kid got this news in sort of third year, and then 3 years later, I just very much had a frank conversation with a young man, just going, your journey is incredible. Look at the amount of weight you've lost, what you've changed, this, that, and the other, that. Yep. And I'm like, what was your motivation? I was told no. It crippled me. So I just essentially, I stopped eating. I just exercised. So for me, the pathway system is flawed in the sense of we're telling kids no when we're identifying kids who have got talent. And I would actually advocate, let's keep some of these kids involved, especially front five. There's front row / prop crisis. How many games do we see even at the top level couldn't get front row? We don't have spare because you always need 3 on the field plus 1, if not 2 on the bench. Yeah. I've got kids who can play front row, and all they want to do is play front row, and they just that's their bread and butter. Yeah, it's great choice. Great choice. As a scrum half, I respect those big boys. Yeah. Those big boys help win the ball for me. They make me look good. I'm all about that. It's a symbiotic relationship. So telling these kids no, for some of them, and that's something we need to be aware of as coaches and as people and as parents, that we need to give them the support to nurture through that.
It's okay to tell someone no if you're going to give them accurate,
a good reason,
not general feedback, not a cut and paste exercise, specific feedback with a plan. Totally. Because if you've got 40 kids, and say you have another 10 in the periphery who could be in there, but you just cut them because you need 40, that doesn't make sense to me.
No.
You should make it 50, 60, 70, however many, so they get the experience of operating at an elite level. And that will accelerate their development rather than them regressing and stopping developing or stopping playing the game. And I think what they need to understand at academy level is that, you know, players at this point are vulnerable. Vulnerable from the sense of they have pressure from themselves in being selected. They won't have parental pressure, but the player will know that their parent wants them to be picked. They then have peer pressure if they're not picked and deemed not good enough. So these kids actually have pressure coming from all different angles. And to just cut someone and give them generic feedback is not good enough. It needs to be specific feedback with a plan. And I think, you know, I wrote an article, and I done an article with Offside Line on what I would do with the pathway, which might come in a minute. But I just think that it's, you know, we're really letting young players down.
Yep.
And when you see, and I've seen the impact that it's had on two players in the past couple of months where it's really, really impacted on them to the point where they don't want to play rugby anymore. And that's not rugby for me. You know, rugby for me was always a game that was all-inclusive. And don't get me wrong, I know we need to be, there's a brutality to the side of our game. But we have to remember these kids are young. These kids want to be playing a game for the rest of their life. And if you're just going to cut someone and not give them anything, it's not good enough. Yep. And it's not good enough in the sense of, you know, you're not developing them as a player. It's not healthy for them as kids. Yep. And you're going to stop growing the numbers of our game because kids are going to leave it.
Yep.
And that's, as a country with the numbers that we have, we should have our mindset and philosophy should be the other way. Yep. In the sense of keep as many in as we can, and you're always going to get guys that just aren't quite good enough or aren't good enough or maybe been nominated by their clubs just to be nominated. And I get that. But we need to give the kids more, and I think that specific feedback, that support, pathway coaches or academy coaches coming to watch games. If you're cutting a kid and you're saying to them, well, look, you've done 9 things out of 10, but that kid's doing 10, right, okay, well, how is that kid going to show you that one thing that he needs to work on? How's he going to show you? How's he going to get back in? You know, and that's when I was involved in the Glasgow age grade stuff, millions of years ago, was that selectors came and watched you. And I just don't think we get it right. I think we get it, you know, and there's very good people, very good coaches involved in the pathway stuff. You know, that I just think that the current system lets them down.
Yeah. I like just to kind of go back a point there, I'd rather have more kids involved than not. Yep. And I understand there must come a point where you might have to select, say, 25 kids for a fixture. Fine. I've got no issue with that. And the cream of the crop will essentially rise to the top. I would big advocate for, rather than a hard, fast no with generic feedback, I'd much rather advocate for, not at the moment, but here are perhaps 3 things to go and work on. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring you back. So say there's 3 things to work on. Okay, we're about to enter a very busy 6 weeks where maybe it's more manageable for us to have less numbers. Right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to send you away in 8 weeks' time. So we're going to do this busy 6 weeks. In 8 weeks' time, we're going to invite you back with other players, and we then want to see an improvement in That then gives, I think, maybe for some of these kids that we touched on, the things to work on, that they can go and focus on that. 8 weeks is a long time for anybody. 2 months is quite a long period of time, but it's actually measurable, it's manageable for the right kid who does really want it, rather than that hard and fast know that not just now, but go and work on this for 8 weeks and know that the door is open, that they can then come back and get a chance to prove themselves. Perhaps 1 or 2 of those players who maybe are not quite there yet, they'll get that opportunity. Or furthermore, sometimes the kids go back to their clubs, and this isn't any discredit to clubs and coaches who 95% of the time, in my experience, are volunteers. It's a lot of dads and uncles and just people who want to see things happen, probably for the same reasons why I fell into it, going, there's a gap here and I can help. People just want to help. Great. I would then actually go, by keeping some of these kids involved, and I'm not saying that they don't get to train with the other group, but from my experience being in the pathway, and I've only really much done it once, so I'm in no position to really accurately comment. It's just my opinion. It would be on the back of what was the group that was selected, who played the games, you did the training with them, you took them through the busy sort of like 6 to 8 week fixture schedule. On the back of it, we then did like 6 weeks player development hub. Mm-hmm. They should run at the exact same time with the exact same kids, because that would then give them 10 or 12 weeks of access to coaches who might actually be able to push them in the areas they're working on. By all means, it might be a case of, if they're training, say, we need them once a week up at a regional venue for the training. It might be 1 hour as whole squad, the second hour is then split. But even put myself, and I put myself forward as a coach to develop and get better, I would love to go and work with some of those kids to then go with, how do I then get them better at the areas you got to work on? Because there's the specific feedback that's been shared to them from these coaches over here. We're going to work on this now. That might be body height into collision. That might be hand catch. It might just be general fitness. It might be building up some extra strength. Whatever it might be, I think those kids would get more from that environment, knowing they're still involved, even though they might not be playing, because they get access to the space, the time, the resources, the coaches, all the things that they might not get one-to-one, or perhaps in their own coaching or their club environment. And again, I'm not bagging clubs without them, with the whole thing falls down, but there might be some kids who, when they go to training that particular Tuesday or Thursday night, there's only 9 kids. They can't even get 2 teams of 5 playing for a wee game at the end, which is frustrating. Now, a smart coach will know how to facilitate that and play overload games or whatever, which is great. But that might not be conducive for that one player on that pathway journey.
That generic session.
So just that generic thing.
And I think that I'm not having a go at individuals who are coaching within the pathway set up. It's not about that. There are, as I said earlier, there are some very good coaches in it. There are some very good rugby people within it. I think it's just the system and how the system works. It's not the people, it's the system. And, that by all accounts, David Nucifora is going to, or he started making changes already.
Yep.
So, kind of my thing a few years ago was, I spoke to David Barnes at the offside line and just kind of done a kind of short article on it, and my kind of philosophy behind it is you have, regions within districts. So you have East Ayrshire play South Ayrshire, you have Inverclyde play Renfrewshire, and this is what used to happen. This is what the system, and a lot of people say, but that's what we done years ago. Yeah, but it worked. It worked, and I think. You have Inverclyde versus Renfrewshire, and then the next week you have Inverclyde versus East Ayrshire, or however it is. So you have a series of festivals over a series of weekends. So the kids are getting as much exposure, and also kids and coaches are able to make a much more measured judgment of a player because they've seen him 6, 7 occasions rather than seen him once.
An hour and a half
as part of a squad of 70 and making a decision. So. Over those series of festivals, you pick your squad to go forward for a Glasgow under-16 trial. You might still pick 60 kids. You might have 60 kids. You might have 2 trials. But I just think as many opportunities to see the kids, and also for the kids to feel as though, right, okay, I've got a shot at this. Not just one weekend, not just 1 hour or one game. I've got a series. Because somebody could be injured, miss it, then they're out. So that was my kind of thinking behind that at the time. And to be honest, I don't know if I would change my philosophy on that. I think that's right. I think it works.
I think it's a tough one, having put my toe in the pond and then taking it back out, and then I've recently had a family, and so my circumstances slightly change. I only see the feedback I get from the players, and I see, like, if anyone was to come to my school and go, right, Chris, give me your best 8 under-15 boys or under-16 girls, and just like show them what you've got, what can they come and do. I guarantee you'd be impressed, because I see them week in and week out, and go, you're just partial because they're your kids. Like, no, because I see them, I'll know when a player's maybe having an off week because there's a bit of a dip in performance there, or there may be something going on at home because, again, I spend more time with these kids. I've got the relationship with them. But I guarantee these kids, I would love to then go and see what they're up against and the reasons why. Again, also me, I would be more than happy to, why don't I receive feedback on the players? Right, coach, you're working with these kids 3-4 times a week, plus a game, potentially maybe 5 times, or maybe 5 hours in a week that I've maybe seen some of these kids. Can you go and work on this? That'd be great. I'd be more than happy to then go, right, okay, let's take wee Jimmy out you come in this session. Jimmy, I know you can do this. This is actually a wee bit beneath you, so I'm actually going to push you in this area. You need to go and work on this skill. And I'd be more than willing to do that.
That requires...
How do you get more players to the top? That's great. We have an internationalist board at our school, and it's great. We've got a couple of rugby players on there from before I arrived. I've got a whole host of players over the past sort of 13, 14 years who've done 16s or 18s or 20s. I've got a couple of women who are really close now. They're right on the brink of what will be a full cap. I've had 3 kids get international full caps and honours for other countries, but I've yet to get one for Scotland. And I've always set myself a target of, if I get one, just one, I'll feel I've maybe achieved and maybe really influenced someone to take them from that foundational level on that pathway journey. I've done my little part of build the foundations and send them on their way and help support them as best I can all the way through. But when the system is geared up and you see talented players, like not just good players, talented players who have the ability, who are playing regional level stuff or maybe doing the Cali stuff and then going on and doing inter-districts or maybe doing a bit of Glasgow or some Edinburgh stuff. The kids are really on the edge here. They're probably in that top 100 players their age and stage across the country who could be then making that step up, who then just aren't given the nod or the handshake. They go from where they are there to probably not playing the game. And that really upsets me personally because it's a game that I love. And the last thing you want is the players to say, I'm no longer playing. And I think the fallout and I think the fallout is maybe the word I'm looking for, the fallout on the back of what can be a negative experience at an early stage in their playing it can be really detrimental long term for the kids.
Yeah, and I think we'll see if it changes. I think by all accounts the signs are that it's changing. I think there's going to be more coaching opportunities. So that must mean that they're going to have more teams, which means that they're going to have more sessions, more exposure for the kids. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
I just... Sometimes more is more. And I think in this situation, when we're looking at 15, 16-year-old kids and we're trying to encourage them on that pathway, the kids who really want it will push themselves really hard. Again, because it's so close to home and we can lean on it. And again, I'll maybe pick that name up and I could take no credit for it. But Finn Russell's a Wallace boy. He inspires so many kids by just breathing, by being present and still in sometimes, or just being on the telly. Our kids and going, he walked our hallways. He's one of ours. We're so proud of him. What a fantastic talisman to have as the school. He inspires kids who just go, I want to be like Finn. Or I have kids who come and go, I want to play for Scotland. I'm like, that's amazing. How can I help you? And some kids, again, maybe it links back to, they might not play, but they might go and be involved in professional sport in another way, but their pathway, their journey, their development sometimes starts with simple as making a journey to a club or reaching out to a coach like yourself for a one-to-one or a small group, or it might be just through their school. I think opportunities to access that not only school, club or regional player pathway system, I think the opportunities and having those doors open will only lead to more players, then the cream rising to the top with more players there, as opposed to we're really struggling for players in these positions, or we're actually headhunting kids going, right, okay, who is already 16 and is over 6'2", and you're like, oh, very few kids who are 16 or over 6'2" who love to play rugby and have the hand catch and the fitness to do this and that. But there's kids who have the size. Yeah, the kids have the size already, but we might have to go and look at a basketball player, or is there maybe a footballer, is there maybe a goalkeeper, is there someone else? We need to maybe look at other things, be really creative. Yeah. And I remember as well, it's something I picked up on. It was a podcast, and someone was interviewing Michael Jordan. Is like, sport burnout. Michael, what were you doing most when you were 12 or 13? That very influential age where maybe we get a lot of kids just going, I'm all in on one sport. I was playing baseball, and I was blown away by the fact that best player that could, again, you could argue, has ever played that game. He wasn't playing basketball at 12 or 13. He was playing baseball. But he then very much followed up going, no, but I was really talented because at certain times of the season, when it was basketball season. When it was football, I played football. When it was baseball, I played baseball. I did them all, which made me better at so many other things. Perhaps we need to be looking at bigger picture going, let's not just pigeonhole a kid at this exact moment of 15 and go.
Are we ever going to see another professional team in Scotland, the likes of Glasgow Warriors in Edinburgh?
That's... I would like it to happen. I think one of your big thing is everyone just cut back money. So rather than shoot it down and go with where's the cash coming from, let's just say the cash is there. My big thing is where do you place it? Where do you have somewhere that you've got an automatic fan base where the people love rugby? We've been down, for those who remember, the Borders route before, and I think I love going down to the Borders to play rugby, as long as it's nice and dry. I don't just get standing at and just shouted at the sidelines for some people doing.
Yeah.
So I think there's a hotbed. Melrose has this classic just because of the sevens and historic, and it's a beautiful part of the world that people could go there. But I think you need to be realistic that if you're going to put the investment into a third team, you need to make it attractive. So as much as you would love to say Melrose because it's got that beautiful area, doesn't have the infrastructure, and as much as you love to be there, it's got to be a city.
Yeah, probably the closest team now that if you were going to look at a club wise is Ayr.
Yeah.
The way Ayr is ran, it's a business, and it's a successful business who year on year in
are competitive,
winning leagues, producing players, that go on and play for Glasgow and Scotland. Finn Russell, Falkirk,
Ali Price,
yeah, Ali Price, guys like that. So Stafford McDowell, there's a number, and this is where a third team. Would you have it in Cali? Would you have it in the Borders, or do you say right? There's a ready-made club who could embrace professional rugby, but then would they be prepared to lose their identity to be effectively a franchise for the SRU, Scottish Rugby?
Oh, that's a question to ask an Ayrshire.
Yeah, and and to be honest, not because it's Scottish Rugby, I just don't think they would. I think they're happy doing what they do, they've redeveloped their ground, they give young players outstanding opportunities. And the kids playing there, I've seen the players who have come out of the first team and went to professional rugby. It's probably the club in Scotland where aspirational players will go to try and get to the next level.
It's
in the West.
Yeah. It's how do you then take a kid who's maybe living in Haddington? How does a kid get from Haddington to Ayr on a Tuesday night for training? It just doesn't happen. So I get your point. That geographically, in the West, that's where you're sorted. Yeah.
And then in Edinburgh, there's you've got Watsonians, Heriots, Edinburgh Ackies. I don't know. The easy thing would be to say bring back a semi-professional, but I think that was canned because of money.
So I think that was my opening gambit. Imagining that the cash is there, I think you need to have somewhere where there is fan base, infrastructure, stadium access, fans to get access to come and watch their team play as well. You need a hotbed of rugby and passion there anyway. So where do you geographically put your finger on the map and go, right, it would be there because that makes sense. You're like, right, okay. Like people go, well, would it be Stirling because of its geographical location?
Well,
it's commutable. I think as well for the players, they need to understand that it's players, it's wives, it's children. It's you're trying to create everything there. I think if you look at some of the biggest, most successful clubs who are, if we're talking, you want to create a professional team and make them competitive, whether that be in say Scotland or you look at some of the clubs in Ireland as well as maybe the big English clubs as well, France.
Scottish.
You know what I mean? We need something that makes sense that ticks every box. I just don't know if we have something that ticks every box.
Yeah.
I think we have a few options that might tick many boxes,
but not all.
Not all of them.
I think London Scottish was something that was muted several years ago. About making that the inadvertently or the third pro team where you would have maybe your more your academy players coming to the end of their contract who were maybe not ready for Glasgow or Edinburgh but would go to London Scottish and play in the Championship or. So that but then that seems to have stopped.
It collapsed down because of all the debt and the cuts and financials.
Yeah.
So it all goes back about money.
Yeah, and there's I think there's a £10 million that needs to be eradicated of debt, and try to service that debt and have a third pro team.
Would you then flip it? I'm just to change the narrative slightly. Would you then go actually? We've had massive growth in, say, the women's game. We have 2 professional teams, as in male teams. We've got 2 aspiring professional
So rather
women's
than losing
team,
your women,
rather than losing the women's and the identity, but then could we potentially add layers to what we've already got? We have training venues, we have gym, we have staff, we have S&C. You could potentially add to that. Again, I'm maybe dodging the question you've asked, which is a great question, without then just going, I don't have 25 million to invest and just create a new thing.
Do you have a professional women's team in Scotland?
So would you then go, actually, I think you need to...
Instead of going to Bristol or Leicester or...
Yeah, all I see, and again, I hinted to this, I've got a really talented group of players, 4 or 5 women who've kind of come through my school, local club, pathway system, their player development journey, and I've probably followed that from when they've just arrived at Wallace as sort of like 11, 12, 13-year-old young girls who's, I'll play a bit of rugby, sir. Brilliant, here we go. Oof. From that to then seeing them go, they're pulling on a Scotland under-20s top and they're doing really, really well, or an under-23s or this, that, and you're like, wow. Or seeing them play for Glasgow and Edinburgh. Is the third team an out-and-out professional women's team?
What?
Where you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh, the M8 corridor, they're an hour apart, but...
Everton Stirling.
I don't, again, people probably watching this. Easy for the man who works at Wallace because that's dead easy. That suits you. Like, I get that, so I know I'm opening myself up there for pop shots.
No, but it's a kind of almost like a...
Or air. Like there needs to be a club that's maybe got the size, the space, the infrastructure, something there. But with the third team, could it be a women's team? I think it'd be amazing for the sport. I think women's rugby is a tinderbox waiting to go.
Or do you contract your Scotland under-20s for 2 years and play them somewhere in another league?
Again,
well, both of you've done everything to dodge my question. But,
I just didn't have the answer. Sorry, I couldn't say. I would say I'd love to say the Borders, but I think where Borders rugby's at just now in terms of the numbers, I don't think Scottish Rugby would look at it up north. I think it's the same scenario. I don't really know. I don't really have the stats. I don't really have the access to any of that kind of information. But would I like to see one? Yeah, of course I would.
100%.
Where does it go? Where do you have it? What's the location? Who's funding it?
More is more. A third pro team would be great. Whether it be Inverness, Aberdeen, Dundee,
St Johnson,
pick any Borders town because they're all beautiful wee places you can go. It's like which one ticks as many boxes as possible. Again, going on the sense of that there is money there, some form of large investment, some big tycoon who comes in just going, I've watched 2 games, I love it, and that's it. We can make something happen. Fantastic. I think there's real worry and trepidation there after watching some teams in the Premiership potentially crumble with debt and money, and that
teams in the Championship, Jersey.
And again, I've had friends who've come through Jersey as part of that their player development, their program, how they've how they've moved through the game. They've had great times in Jersey, and it's that whole sense of how do you get people there? They can't be a huge fan base. I think you find that when the game's on, everyone in Jersey just essentially just goes, and that's amazing. So you don't need 10,000 people.
No,
you know what I mean. But as long as you have enough, then yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence, but like Switzerland and dodge your question. I don't know where it would go, but I would like one. I agree. I think is it sustainable? That comes back to the big money umbrella. But no, I would love to see a third one.
Would also give a big chance for more homegrown players to play for Scotland, because we see a lot of players start here and end up playing in France or
and then come back and play professional rugby.
And then come back.
More is more.
We're missing a stage between homegrown players and how we're going to develop them to become a professional.
The 18, 20-year-olds to say 23, 24, there's maybe a 2-year, 3-year window there. I was now actually I would put on it something from a friend of mine. He tagged me in something and he's like, what do you make of this? And he knew what he was doing because he knew like poke, and he knew I would be like, I'm probably going to have to say something. So I sat on it. It was kids who are now leaving school and then who've got the grades to go to university. But rather than picking, say, a Scottish university or maybe like a Durham or a Loughborough, they're going to America and they're getting essentially 50, 70% scholarships to go out there and go and get a 3 or 4 year degree, but go and play rugby as well. Now, there's a bit of me going, personally jealous, just going, where was that?
That'd have been all right.
I would have been nobody like, sorry, mom, pop, bye-bye, I'm off ski. Now, I do not begrudge this at all, but if we're talking, these players are obviously talented enough and wary enough of the current climate perhaps across the country, There's not enough cash for contracts. There's not really an opportunity for them to keep developing as a player at just their local club, or they're coming out of their school. There's nowhere else for them to go because there's you just need to wait 4 or 5 years till you emerge, because not everyone's a Pollock. And that's fine. That's absolutely just, it's the way of the world kind of thing. But they're smart enough to realise, well, I can get someone to help me out, fund a degree experience, I can get player exposure, I can do all the things I need to do because there's a market to support me in my player pathway, my player development, by going to, say, America or Canada, or I'm sure there's other places. But one that he tagged me in was kids going to North America to go and play college rugby, and you're like, they're playing Division 1, so they're playing against some of the biggest and best schools in the entire country. So on a Thursday or Friday, they'll be getting on a plane and travelling across the country to go and play a game of rugby on a Saturday.
It's professional.
Professional. It's as close as you could argue that it's almost, in certain aspects, more professional than some of the stuff we have going on at homegrown stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, again, I think it's amazing. I was baffled when I learned this a couple of years back. The Edinburgh Uni women's first 15 set up, that their league is, we've got Hartby on Wednesday, so yeah, we just catch a flight on either a Tuesday night or a Wednesday morning. I'm like, we used to get crammed in a minibus to go up to Dundee and play, and just would sit there with bags like, and it's fantastic. That's how it should be. That is how it should be. We want the best players playing the best teams, consistently, best opportunities. We're touching that, so more is more opportunities, more access to games, more access to quality opposition, all that stuff. So for these kids who maybe going to North America, they're going to earn a degree, they're going to get financial support to do so. I presume they'll be smart enough to understand that mums and dads are across the pond, so we'll be flexible with some tickets for some games, we'll help support with flights or accommodation. They're not daft.
A win-win.
It's a win-win for them, it's a win-win for that player. That player might then gravitate back to us, maybe let's put them at, say, 24, 25, peak of their game with essentially a highlight reel going, whack, Glasgow, Edinburgh, or any of the championship teams just going, I'm here and I'm available. Mm-hmm. They're no daft in what would be their senior year to send that videotape out to whoever. Agents, the whole lot. Yeah, we're maybe missing a beat, and I think that's where we could learn by looking at some other aspects of how do they interest players, how do they retain players, and maybe adding some of those elements in, as you say, to maybe stock that gap of what is that little missing bit from top amateur at 18, 19, 20-year-old to professionalism. Because there is a gap. How do we as coaches, how do we as enthusiasts for the sport bridge that, narrow that, or better yet, how do we actually support more kids to actually make the jump? If you can work that out, then I think that gives you your third professional team.
Yeah. Good.
Yep. I don't know what to ask next.
Anything you want. You're in charge. You're in the driving seat.
Go back to pathway, or
what about opportunities or feedback?
Or the open conference.
Is that what they're calling this new 8 schools, 8 clubs thing?
Let's go with that.
Let's open that one.
Right? Yeah, we're going to talk about the open So you want to explain what it is?
So, from my understanding, again, I'll butcher this if I get it wrong, kind of thing. There's a new conference. So we don't like the word league, apparently. So a new conference has been created for the best schools and clubs across the country at under 16s and under 18s boys. I believe it's just boys, not for girls. That has been created so that the best players from the best schools or clubs are playing each other week in and week out, or at least more consistently, so there's not the really stronger schools playing some of the schools or clubs who are not quite at that level, and the discrepancies between scores and results and make the games. Because if best players stronger clubs and schools are playing stronger opposition more consistently, that leads into, in theory, that would then get more players at a higher level. It raises the game. Like, I understand the principle, and for the principle, I understand that, and I think I can be supportive of it. I can get on board with it. I suppose my concern being close proximity to one of the clubs that's going to be involved in that, and again, I'm not here to name clubs or schools who are being involved. That's absolutely fine. And again, advocating the fact that I think it's a good thing for these schools and clubs to be involved in it. I'm just wary of how what's the end game? Where do we go? I think we need to manage it very well. But my biggest concern, I actually raised this when it was first highlighted, this might be something to be involved with. I said, what about the players that might fall in the gap? Because every school or club involved in this new conference, there will essentially be 15 or 20 players involved on a match day on a Saturday. What about that kid who's at that club, who trains, who's, again, on the doorstep, has been there as a micro, a mini, all the way through their player development, their player pathway, gets to the point of they've now got an opportunity to play the best clubs and schools across the country for, say, a round of 7 games, because you take yourself out of it, and they might not get an opportunity to play because they need to stay behind another player, or there's no rotation, or where does that player get their development? I'm okay with it if there's rotation in and out within squads, but I think because it's going to be, quote unquote, so competitive that every game's must win.
Yeah, I think within the schools,
where does that player go?
Yeah, I think certainly within, and I'm surmising this, but having an experience of coaching in the schools, what I think is if you have a group of, say, under 17s, I think the schools will organise fixtures for those players to play. But I think the harder, as you say, is where do they play at a club? Yes. Where does your under 17s play at the club? Because how many other clubs will have under 17s? They won't. They'll have under 18s. So it's getting fixtures and keeping those players active. Or again, I don't know. Would for talking sake, Stirling County's under 18s when they play Mercus and Castle, would they have their A team? Let's call it their A team,
championship team.
Their conference team, the open conference team, and then take along another team to play a fixture against a Mercus and Castle.
That's my hope and aspiration.
And I think that's what will happen.
I think that's, for me, it's a non-negotiable. You've got to have those kids essentially going to the same venue, playing the same team or club or school. They need to be involved in that so that they very much feel they're still part of something. There shouldn't be there's the conference team, if you will, and this is that maybe links to some of the things we've touched about. Just going, that kid might need 8 weeks to improve. That kid maybe needs more opportunity. That kid maybe just needs some more game time. Might be a late development. There could be a number of factors, but that player needs to feel wanted. That player needs to feel included, and I suppose that links back to one of our big things is our opportunities for those kids to play. I would hate to then find that because that kid's not been picked to play for that game, he doesn't play at all. Aye. And that, for me, that's where the love for the game starts to die. That's where it's really frustrating, and that's why I'm very mindful coming from a school, because I don't coach at clubs. I'm just doing my bit at schools to try and give kids opportunities to put their hands on the ball, get excited about the game, and then go from there. I'd be mindful of those kids, as you say, who are new to under 16, so that under 15 group, and that group of kids who've moved from 16s to 18s, who are then that under 17s group. That's a very impressionable phase of their growth and player development. That's where we could have drop-off, and before you know it, you've only actually got, and I think because now more and more kids are mindful of who's got a young birthday, this magical young birthday rule. Can you play down? So do you then go, a kid who might have left school in S6, who's now, we would call them, they're no longer at school, but because they might have a October, November, December, January, February birthday, they're young for their age, but why are they not pushed on? All of a sudden, some clubs might want to hold on to that player because it gives them that strength and depth. So you're a bit like, well, a question I would then ask, is that the right age and stage for that kid? And if so, I've got no real issues with it personally, but if that kid is already perhaps on a player pathway system, that kid's already been identified, they might have maybe played Scotland under 18. Brilliant. That player, for me, I'm not saying they are then above what is all, they need to be pushed and challenged. So that's where we can't then become stagnant. So I think there needs to be real.
If you look at the demographic of the conference, you've got Stuart's Melville, George Watson's, Mercusson, in the Edinburgh area, strong schools, and then you've got Boroughmuir under 18s. So you wonder how the conference is going to impact. What's the breakdown of kids who are maybe at Watson's or Stu Mail that play for Boroughmuir? how does, or if they don't get picked for Watsons or Stuart, are they going to go and play for Boroughmuir under 18s? How's that? Because obviously Boroughmuir are the under 18s team, you know, so there's that instance as well. You know, and I'm behind it. I think it had to happen. Having been involved in coaching in private schools, I see the effort that gets put in by the school. I see the funds that and the money that has to be raised by the independent schools themselves in order to deliver the service and offer the experience that they do give to their kids. And I've seen how hard the staff work as well. And in some ways, for me, the independent schools can be left to do their thing because they have their structure, they have their system, they have their finances in place. But I think if we had more school of rugby programs like the one that you run, you know, in state schools, because when I was a development officer for 5 years in the Garnock Valley. I mean, when I went to Garnock Valley, there was very little there. And when I left, there was a team, you know, teams in every primary, club was thriving, school was thriving. That's not just because of me, because we had an excellent group of volunteers as well, parents who were prepared to put their hands up. And I think if there was a greater investment in state schools, you'll get buy-in from parents, because parents will see their kids want to play.
Yeah.
So parents will come in and they'll get their PVG. They'll go in their coaching. Their level 1. They'll come in and help after schools if their shifts allow. You know, parents are there to be had to help. And I think that, you know, I mean, when I was in the Garnock Valley, I was a development officer and had 2 modern apprentices. You know, and I think looking at the numbers now, there definitely isn't the same amount of development officers. And there definitely isn't the same investment in the school of rugby programmes. So, and when you look at the independent schools doing their own thing, you know, not their own thing, running their own rugby programmes, then for me there should be more investment in state schools and the community. And I think, and clubs in general, and I think, I get things are tight, I get there's a deficit that needs to be overhauled, you know, there's a financial implication, but where do your players come from? Where do your players come from? They come from playing P1, P2, P3, P7, whatever, or S1 rugby at, I don't know, Bishopton, Falkirk, Clydebank. You know, that's where they come from. And if you don't invest in them, those clubs, those schools, then that's when the drop-off will accelerate even further.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, if you don't continue to invest in those schools, you're looking down the barrel of a gun, because it's hard enough to get kids playing rugby in schools, as you know, with football and other opportunities like that. And it's a different generation now, so kids are doing different things. When us, you just played sport.
Yep.
That was it. Now they're off doing this or that, or sitting behind a PlayStation, you know, and if you can't offer them that rugby experience, they're not just going to come to you. They'll go and play football with their mates, or they'll go and do whatever. And I just think that it's something that really, really needs seriously addressed. And the noises coming out of Murrayfield are that you know, that they have identified that, and they're going to address that, and I just hope they do, sooner rather than later, because Johnny Gray, Cambuslang, Finn Russell, Stirling County, Falkirk, you know, Stuart Hogg, Hoyk. These players came from the grassroots game.
And also White Boys. Yeah.
You know, and that's where they come from.
I think with the open conference, I think that's great, because there is something there on that player pathway. There is something there for those kids to go and aim for, and I think it's good that it's in place. I back it. I think it's a good idea. It needs managed in the right way so we don't have player drop off. I would like to hope it's a non-negotiable that if the under 18 championship or conference team, are, as you say, they are playing Boroughmuir that day, great. That under 17 group or that also have a game, and it should be, for me, right, that game kicks off at 11, this game also kicks off at 11.
Usually it's
how it should be done. Or even if you flip the fixture because of travel and coaches, I get that, but that needs to be done.
Independent schools, that's what happens. A first team and a second team will go and play, you know, so I wouldn't really kind of see that. I could be wrong, but you know, that's my experience of it is, you know, if you have an under 16s A and you have an under 16s B, they're both playing fixtures.
got to.
And I think that's critical.
I think, and then that links in to as a state school and a one-man band, and this isn't a poor me type ploy where I'll go with this. It's I'm operating first year boys, second year boys, under 15 boys, under 16s boys, under 18 boys. It's what I can beg, borrow, scrounge, steal, or fundraise myself. Under 14 girls and under 16 girls is always really awkward. I've got 2 girls in particular who are Scotland under 16s. They're pushing into that under 17, 18 pathway. They're fantastic, talented girls, but there's just such a drop off for them because there's not as many opportunities, and that maybe it's another discussion for another day. But I'm doing essentially those boys teams, those girls teams. I've got a school rugby program which I'm really proud of with a first year boys group, a second year, third year boys group, and out and out girls group. I'm almost maxed out on what I can do as a person as well, still professionally do my job and teach. Do my job, like just teach BGE, teach National 5, teach higher, teach leadership, as well as managing parents' nights and commuting. I've got my own family. Like I am stretched. Everything from booking buses to organising fixtures to washing the kit to, I forgot my boots today. Like, do it, right? Okay. Scrounging around for what I've got. So I would love help bodies, and that's where I'm fortunate enough that I've forged partnership agreements with a club like the local club in there, which is still in County, and they're really good, and they've come on board in the last couple of years to help support and bolster what I've done. But I can't be the only state school. I can't be the only Chris in the same situation. Now I'm lucky enough that I've got a club on my doorstep that I can then lean on, and it's been great to have that support. But there's a lot out there who won't, and I feel that's where maybe we need to, on the back of what is now this conference, I suppose it's a long way round to get to the point I'm trying to make, is we need to connect the dots a little better for these opportunities and these player pathways. Just going, where's the Bishoptons? Where's the Ardrossens? Where's the Falkirks? Where's the Canvas Langs? Identify these dots, get the support in place for those clubs, those schools in particular. I will always bang that drum of the schools really need something. That's where your hotbed of untapped talent probably lies.
100%.
The amount of kids that I probably get come to me who've never picked up a ball and love it, and within 6 weeks, 6 months, or within 2 years have made the conversion to then go and join the club, I've probably got about a 95% success rate. And I don't think there's a rugby club across the country who'd say that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
We're getting more players coming in, which is more parents, which is more bums through the on seats. That's more is more again.
Yeah, and
that's what we need to identify these people and support them.
When I was at Garnock Academy, there was footballers who were playing pro youth for Ayr United, and they were very good footballers, but they weren't going to play professional football. And 2 or 3, I think there was 3 of them. 3 of them came over and played rugby, and we got to the finals night at Ayrshire, and Garnock Academy won. They were part of that under 16 team. They kicked on and never played football. They never played football again. Just carried on playing rugby.
Yep.
That was it. That's what they've done. And there is crossover, from so many other sports, because football, the amount of number of girls and boys playing football is phenomenal. Not all of them are going to make it. Very few make it. So it's about, if you can run a good rugby programme within a school, you will attract the interest of these kids. And that's certainly what I found down in the Garnock Valley when I was working down there, was that if you were able to show not just the kids but the parents as well, this is the rugby they're getting during the weekend curriculum, this is their after school that they're getting, they're going to play on a Wednesday, okay, that's of interest. And then all of a sudden you've got them.
The number one thing I think that hooks a kid probably to any sport is that opportunity and access to play. One of probably the number one thing that I get from the kids going, have you thought about going? I think I'd like to go. What's stopping you? I don't think I'll get picked. It's actually the fear and worry of not having that, because they know when they go there, there's going to be so many more kids or opportunities. That's not necessarily the case at every club across the country or every school. I think that's maybe the advantage of being school, is that I'm not necessarily overwhelmed with numbers. I've got a lot of kids who play a lot of rugby, but that's taken 12, 13, 14 years of investment on blood, sweat and tears on my part, as well as positive parent input. I've got great support with my PE department. My head teacher's really supportive of extracurricular clubs. So I'm set up to success, or to succeed, sorry. It's now up to me to actually still do the nuts and bolts on the day-to-day. So those kids having those opportunities then gives them that, whereas I think that there's wary or trepidation to maybe make a leap across. But I found that when they do make that leap, it's almost like, what was I even worried about? I'm here and I'm having a great time.
Aye. And when we saying there needs to be investment in the state schools, I'm fully aware that they've had to make cuts within the game in Scotland. Fully aware that I think there was over 30 individuals lost their jobs. You know, and nobody wants. You don't want anybody to lose their job.
Your heart goes out to them,
Yeah,
because
terrible.
they've got their jobs, they've got their families, got their livelihoods. It's like you don't want these people go.
But there's no way that investment in the state schools can then come if you're cutting rugby development staff.
We've also lost sevens at the elite level.
So if we're going to lose, you know, people who are actively working within the communities to develop club rugby, then only club rugby is going to suffer. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what rolls out this season in terms of what support they'll be able to offer. And it all comes down to the brass shackles. You know, it does. Unfortunately, it does. You know, when you're looking at development officers, you know, being the conduit between school and club, you don't have one of them in place. Then the transition becomes very difficult. Whereas if you have someone who you're seeing in a school, and then you're seeing them at a club, and you're able to, you know, pull them across and pull their mates across and get them involved. If you don't have a development officer, a modern apprentice, a community coach, it's a real uphill battle. You know,
couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
it even makes it hard for them players that got that good skill and ability to play, but then they've been playing for too long and they've never been picked because nobody can see them. I think that's a problem as well. Like you said, they cut jobs for development officers and stuff like that.
So therefore you're potentially, you know, you're not going to expose that player.
You got a skill, but nobody can see you.
Yeah.
From that kid's perspective, where do I go? What's for me? And that's when it's very much, when you're then offered another thing where there's maybe going to be, again, these kids are slightly different. It's that instant gratification. It's that I need to know now. I need to know, like, am I getting picked? Is there going to be an opportunity? What comes next? It's that instant gratification. They must have that very quickly. It's part of the world they live in, I suppose. That if they've got any doubt, I feel that doubt is a much bigger beast than the opportunity of being successful. That's the one they would then listen to as opposed to then taking the gamble. But yeah, I completely agree. The kids need opportunities and clear exposure and support to go and succeed within the sport.
And I think Chris has kind of made it quite clear why he does what he does. And I think he does what he does, and I'm not blowing smoke up the proverbial, he runs an excellent school rugby programme at Wallace. And if we could have even 3 or 4 more of them within the Central Belt, we'd be in a better place. I think, having seen firsthand how you can tell when you walk out to a session and you see kids, you know, running around, or you can see how engaged they are right away. And I've done a few sessions alongside Chris at Wallace, and the kids are so engaged. And that's why it becomes why do I do what I do? I do it because I want to give as many young players the opportunity to develop their skill set, to enjoy their Saturdays or their Sundays. That's what it is. You know, better catch, better pass, better tackle, better positional sense. So when they go into the game, they get more enjoyment out of it. And if they become a pathway player, or if they go on, great. If not, and they just carry on playing rugby for the rest of their lives, that's why I do what I do. And when I was working with Chris at Walsh, you could see there's not just 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. There's 30 kids there, like, loving life, running around, wanting to play rugby. You know, and probably in some ways I've been spoiled having access to that in a state school. So then when you see that in the state schools, and then you hear stories of, well, this club doesn't have any links with that school or that school, and you're going, whoa, what's the missing link here? Why is this not being? Why is there no connection? You know, why is that not happening? And part of my role at Kirkstorf and Cougars going forward is that I'm going to be the youth lead there as well at the club. So before summer, I was making contact with the primary schools and the high schools, and we've got some curriculum time sorted out. So I get the chance to do that in the state school. So as well as being involved at Dollar Academy and coaching, I'll be doing it in the state school as well. So I'll get the best of both worlds. But I think if we could just have 3, 4, 5 more of what this guy does, then we'd be in a far better place. You know, and I think the scary thing is no funding. No funding. And that, to me, to run the programme it is on nothing. on his nerves probably at times.
I've got a very patient wife,
very
patient wife.
On his due to passion and determination and want to give kids an opportunity, says spades loads about him.
Well, we've established that we need funding, lots of money, and about another 1,000 Chris in Scotland.
yeah. They can't clone him.
Don't know if that's a good idea. You're very kind with your comments there, folks. Honestly, it's very difficult to accept those things. So thank you. But it's on behalf of when people tell you these things and they recognise what you're doing. That for me is the best feedback. A player once asked me. He was much older. He kind of graduated. I bumped him in the street, just started the Buchanan Street, just walked down, and he said to me, "What's your coaching philosophy?" I'm like, "I could tell you've just graduated, eh? Like, let me guess, you've got some letters after your name." And he goes, "Aye, what's your coaching philosophy?" I'm like, "Ah." And I took some time and I stumbled on that question a little bit, and I actually wish I came up with a better answer at the time, but it's not till I then was asked that question it probably posed me to reflect upon it, and I then know, and it maybe sums up neatly, like for the end of today, what we've done here today, what we've discussed, maybe the cans of worms we've opened. It would be, my coaching philosophy is how players greet me years after I've stopped coaching them. Am I greeted with a smile and a handshake and a high five and a "you're right, sir"? Or am I greeted with they see me and they cut across the room, or they run into a shop on Buchanan Streets because they don't want to talk to me, or whatever it would be. If I've been greeted in the first manner with "Hi sir, how are you?" handshake, cuddles, high fives, whatever it is. Or better yet, some of the best things I'm now getting is I actually get invites to games. Do you want to come watch me play? I'm playing for such and such, I'm playing for such and such. That for me lets me know coach philosophy. I can't really put it into one sentence, but that lets me know I've done a good job. Yeah. So when other people comment on the programme that I try and run and what I strive for and I endeavour for with my kids at Wallace, thank you. And it's for them that we do it. So it's just to grow things bigger and better for them. And hopefully in years to come, it's lots more high fives and handshakes and cuddles and invites to games, as opposed to a big dirty look and I'm not chatting to you kind of thing and getting blanked in Asda. So
I think there's been lots that come out of the day. I think it's going to be something I want to do once a month. So you may get another invite. I think you probably will.
Well, depending how this one goes, I might get cancelled. I don't know. I might need to work on my patter. I don't have much chat. You asked me about rugby. I've got something to comment on.
It's not any worse than mine.
True.
So thanks for the time today, Chris.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for inviting me along. Thank you very much. Cheers for having me, folks.
And then by the next time we're in, we should know exactly where the lines were at with the Australian and the Test series as well. Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I'll put my neck out. 3 wins.
3-0.
3-0.
Aye, 3-0.
Yeah. I don't think it'll really be that close.
No.
Apologies now to anyone I've offended. Yes, I think it's a 3. Yeah, I think it'll be 3 good spectacles of rugby and everyone can go and have a good time and rugby wins. But no, I think it'll be the Lions.
Yeah, I think though. Yeah, I think it could potentially be the easiest Lions tour in 4 or 5.
Yeah, it could be. Well, we'll sit back and
We'll see.
Thank you very much.
Right, thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.